Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Fantasy Football Guru podcast, also the Two versus Brother podcast. And your host here, the No Name Team, Alfredo. And with me, as always, Pedro, the Exterminator Gonzalez. How are you, Pedro? How's your day been going so far in the league?
Everything so good. Just had a few mishaps there in the league chat, talking about a few things that have happened. But I put people in their place, and everything is good.
Exactly, is where they certainly belong. There's no place for collusion in this league. So, well, now as we continue, we are now on our way going to week 14. Week 13 has been part of the past, and now we're on our way for a action-packed week 14. So we're gonna go ahead with the first question here. So as we know, there's four teams that are buying for the bye weeks. Four have opportunities. The scenarios are: if Franklin wins, he's in. He can also get in with a KMA loss, and Danny and Steven does not end in a tie. Danny and Steven, whoever wins, they're in. But then also, they can both get in if it ends in a tie and both KMA and Franklin lose. And then finally, KMA, he's in if he wins and Franklin lost. So those will be the scenarios with the bye weeks. So Pedro, so based on this matchup, we kind of talked about Franklin's team, we talked about Danny, we talked about Steven, but we didn't talk about KMA, the highest scorer in this league. So based on your thought, we didn't think he was going to get the bye week. So now that there is a possibility and he does get the bye week, can you say that KMA would be the favorite to win in this league?
Look, the thing with KMA is his team is also stacked. There is maybe a one question mark in that whole team, but he's been producing every week. I have here just in the last 5 weeks, now that this week is in the books, I have him at an average of 132.45.
Wow.
That's what his average.
132.
Yeah, that's his average that he has put up in these last 5 weeks, and not including the last week. If I would just say, you know what, we would have done this before on Monday, before everything was set in stone in the only last 4 weeks, his average is 135.92. Total points of the five in total, 662 points. That's the most of anybody.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a lot. And last week he could have easily gotten with the bye week, but he didn't have Josh Allen, and he barely lost.
He barely lost that. It was only because he had Baker Mayfield in his team. He needed somebody, and because of all the injuries and the ineptness at quarterback this year, he had to go with Baker Mayfield, and it gave him 10 points.
Yeah, yeah. So
But
that's good.
at the same time, he still made 118 points.
Yeah, a very solid, very consistent. This man has been consistent all year long. But the big question with KMA is that he's been explosive. Do you foresee, and for example, his main ones are his two receivers, CeeDee Lamb and Keenan Allen. Do you think that those receivers will continue through the playoff, continue on those crazy numbers?
I don't think that you could continue those crazy numbers with Keenan Allen and CeeDee Lamb, but I don't think the floor is that much is going to be something that's gonna kill him. Because if I look over here, just looking at CeeDee Lamb's numbers for the past few weeks, they have been incredible. But it's his floor right now is about 13 points. That's the last few weeks. If I were to look throughout the year, his lowest point total is 6.90. Of course, this is a half PPR league. This and just looking at his numbers, he commands a lot of targets in his back and from the quarterback. It doesn't look to me like his target share is going anywhere unless this is an injury. So he looks to me like a guy that's gonna give him massive workload. Now, the problem here is that along the stretch, you have Buffalo and then you have Miami. That Miami has given a resurgence in the passing offense, passing defense. I'm sorry, with their cornerbacks all being non-injured and looking really well.
Yep.
Um, is for a Miami fan is awesome. But for KMA, that's not necessarily a good thing because now you're gonna have to run through the buzzsaw. Um, Now let's look at Allen real quick, and let's see what Allen has done. Because the thing with Allen, he's been more up and down uh, than CeeDee Lamb lately.
Yeah, last
Uh,
week he gave him 8 points.
mhm.
2 weeks ago he gave him 15. But then he had two stretch there, week 10, week 11, 35, 22. Like, it's been on a roller coaster.
Yeah, and the thing with Keenan Allen that scares me is one of the reasons I didn't draft him is because he's an older wide receiver. I believe he's this year is his 30th year. He's 30 years old. You get to a point in time that you can't sustain these numbers, and from what I've seen, he's been dealing with a quadricep injury, which is I'm assuming part of the reason why he had 8 points last week.
Yeah.
But still, the targets are there, the receptions are there. It's just the yards weren't there this time. Um, that's that to me. Keenan Allen is more of a question mark than CeeDee Lamb. CeeDee
Okay.
Lamb is mostly just because of the quarterback. Because of course, in Dak we trust isn't always the case.
Yeah. But no, with CeeDee Lamb, he's basically the alpha receiver in that team for the Cowboys. So yeah, I don't project, man. I mean, I look at KMA. I mean, for me, my main question with him is his running back, Raheem Mostert.
Mm-hmm.
That for me is the main key because Raheem Mostert all year long. First of all, he's 32, 33 years old. 32.
Mm-hmm.
That's already old enough for running back. So we've been expecting for Raheem Mostert to slow down, and he hasn't. I mean, obviously they're in a great offense. He's been playing great, but eventually the question is, when will that stop? But then the biggest X factor that now affected Raheem Mostert is Devon Achane is back, and the way the game ended last week, Devon Achane looks like he's back. He's running. The Dolphins are focusing on giving him the ball. So I think he's going to start vulturing on some of the carries of Raheem Mostert as they're going to start slowing him down
Mm-hmm.
for the playoff run. So I think his number one running back there, Raheem Mostert, will get affected. And at least that's my main question. Everything else with KMA, I think Kamara is a beast. Kittles is great. His flex, has some questions there, but nothing. I mean, nobody's flex is excellent either. So he's okay there. But looking at the rest of the team, I mean, he's great. I think KMA has, if he has the bye week, I think he should be the heavy favorite, even over Franklin. That I said last a couple days ago that Franklin, for me in my eyes, would be the favorite. But
Mm-hmm.
KMA, if he gets that bye week, I think nobody will be able to beat him. And let me tell you, and we're gonna have to have this conversation really soon. And I know this is something that we might not want to talk about, but if KMA wins or even get to the title, he's going to go to the championship 2 years in a row, in which something that has never been done in this league. And if he wins it, that's Roman Reigns type of status,
Mm-hmm.
elite and the two-time champion, something that we have never had.
The first
And
time.
I think, yep. So I think that, he's on his way. Obviously, the playoffs just started, and he's going to be facing obstacles. But if he gets that bye week, watch out. So
Yeah, I believe when it comes to I'm going to push back a little bit on the Raheem Mostert thing. Yeah, Raheem Mostert is 32 years old, but he hasn't been used as a feature back ever in his career until he got to Miami. And it seems to me like I don't think he's going to be doing it. He's going to be doing this for a long time. Maybe, if anything, a year more because of his age. But I don't think that and also I don't think the Achane thing is as big of a threat as you make it out to be, because if you watch that game, yes, they did handle some carries pretty much evenly, but that was mostly towards the end of the game that Achane got the ball when Miami was just had I don't even think Tua was out there. It was just basically the second offense. So
But you started seeing when A Chain in the beginning of the year that he started doing very good. You started seeing how Raheem Mostert. I mean, you can actually look at it. The week that A Chain, obviously the game against Denver, like everybody blew up. But then
mhm.
the week after that against Buffalo, A Chain was there, gave him 4 points.
Mhm.
And then against the Giants, 14, and that's the game that A Chain got hurt.
Yep.
So I mean, there's. I mean, hopefully I could be wrong. Um, but I have a feeling that A Chain could break it into it, and that could affect KMA because after that, I mean, looking at his roster, bench wise, he has nobody else. He has the running back from Houston, but other than that, nobody else that can possibly contend. Nick Chubb if he ever comes back, since he still has him in IR.
He has hope, man. He has hope. But
Yeah,
look,
he
hey, at
has.
the end of the day, yeah, his main team is set. We're going into the playoffs. The bench at this point, it doesn't matter as much as it used to. You don't need to have as much depth at this point, just in case injuries. But this guy's team is stacked, man. There's no the only question mark I see in his team is maybe George Kittle at this point, because he doesn't always produce. He'll either give you a big week or he won't do anything for you. So, but
Okay.
then again, that's the tight end position.
Okay. Well, perfect. I know later on this week we will dissect more and we'll go more on the matchups. But we also want to go with this topic coming up. So this past weekend, and this has been a theme for this team all year long. This team lost his two quarterbacks, Joe Burrow, and this weekend Trevor Lawrence. So he lost Christian Kirk and he lost Stevenson, which we're talking about the no-name team. So looking at it, the no-name team is right in the thick of the race for the playoffs. So my question to you, Pedro,
Mhm.
is specifically how much Trevor Lawrence and Christian Kirk and Steven injury affect the no-name team for the playoffs?
Okay, well, as for Christian Kirk, that's not going to affect him. I don't think that's a big deal for a no-name team, because at this point, his wide receivers are set. He's got Nico Collins. That guy's a stud. For his emergence this year, it came out of nowhere, but it looked like no name team knew what he was doing. He had conviction in that pick, and he decided to ride with him, even if he wasn't doing everything that he was doing in the beginning of the year. DK Metcalf traded for this guy. He wasn't the guy that he originally wanted, but this guy came through for him last week, even though he was on his bench. And as you said, just because somebody blows up on your bench, that means there should mean there's good things going for your team. Now he's going to be starting, and he's starting in a rejuvenated Seattle offense. They were embarrassed a few weeks ago. Now they came back, and they put up against Dallas's defense.
Yep.
The whole team, 35-41. They lost the game, but they went with their respect intact. It's all on the back of DK Metcalf. That guy,
Yep.
that guy, if this is a glimpse into his future. I,
Well,
I
this
don't
was
know.
the DK Metcalf that no-name team was envisioning when he asked for DK Metcalf. As you saw,
Mhm.
he's the fastest receiver in the NFL. He broke the Tyreek record for velocity in
Yeah.
the run. So he's fast. Look at the last 4 weeks that DK Metcalf has given. 13, 17. He had a 4 point there against San Francisco. but then a 34. So DK, we look at trends, right?
Mhm.
This is one thing that we tell everybody in fantasy football. If you're looking to pick up a player, if you're thinking about starting him, look into trends. If you see that the last couple of weeks they've been trending up, then I think it's the right time to get him. And DK Metcalf is what he's been doing. So like you've been saying, he's been great. But what else? What else? What? So you think Christian Kirk does not affect no
Christian
name team?
Kirk does not affect that. I don't think Christian Kirk is a factor because he has other wide receivers. Not even talking about Cooper Cup. That's another guy that he has on his team that hasn't been producing that much lately, but he's there. He's not a bad pick even in his basically his last what looks to be his last few years in the league. Because of injuries and everything that's going on with him, he still looks great. I rather Cooper Cup than a lot of other wide receivers out there because he has a higher ceiling.
Yeah, he's gonna
Um,
be in the bench. I mean, in the flex.
he's gonna be in the
So
flex position, so
yeah,
he's gonna that's a great flex, but it because he has a very high ceiling. Now,
yep,
when we come to these other injuries, he has the Stevenson injury. That was a little bit weird, but you know what? Stevenson hasn't really been producing as much in the past, even though in the last 2 or 3 weeks he has been doing before his injury. Giving him 11 points, 20 points. I see there 19 points. The guy has been producing, especially now that it seems like Bill Belichick now wants to run the ball more than anything because his quarterback sucks.
yep,
Uh, Stevenson has been the beneficiary of that, but now he's injured. Is would he really want to start going to the season with and going to the playoffs with Rashad White and Devon Achane? It's not bad picks at all. If I had to pick, I think that those guys are very serviceable. I'm not a like I've told you before. I'm not a Devon Achane believer because I believe more in bigger running backs because when they get injured they can withstand it. We see it like you've seen the Saquon Barkley's injuries. Derrick Henry's always has something going on, but he's always there. He never misses. Um, the issue with Devon Achane is now he's coming off of a lower body injury, and that's the death nail for a lot of running backs, especially smaller running backs, and having to deal with bigger defensive tackles, bigger linebackers that are chasing him down and tackling. Um, he's rolling the dice a little bit with that Devon Achane more than Rashad White, to be honest, for me. But if he continues producing that in the way that he has, he's not going to have a problem.
yep. And the
Now,
big question, the quarterback.
the quarterback. The quarterback situation is tough. Um, I don't see a way that no name team can get a quarterback. Let's see. What did he pick up a quarterback already?
Yeah, he did. He picked up the Cincinnati quarterback, Browning.
Browning. Um, Browning has been good. He hasn't been terrible. And that's just last week. He looked like he didn't look like Burrow, but he looks serviceable. If he continues to play like that, then yeah, he's not going to have any problems. But what are you going to put all your eggs in that basket with a quarterback that's basically an unknown? It's at this point in the league in the season when you're basically vying for a playoff spot. This is not the situation you want to be in, especially when you're going up against an individual like a KMA.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we're just looking for a miracle. No name team. I think he's looking for Browning. If he can give him 20 something points, he gave last week. Gave him 26 points. Is what he scored.
Mhm.
I think what Cincinnati is doing is that they're putting the hands on their playmakers, and with that, it helps the quarterback. So he has. It's a risk. There's not much options out there, especially some of the quarterbacks that were available were taken, in a very weird way, very suspicious. Obviously, I think there was some form of dirtiness involved
Mhm.
to not take, but obviously, this is, I think, looking at the no name team, this was the quarterback that he wanted. He did not want Russell Wilson. He had Joshua Dobbs the week before, and he dropped him because he didn't believe in him. So, the collusion that these guys did, I mean, they did it so wrong that they picked the wrong guy for it.
Yeah.
But I mean, the good news, just to give you at least some breaking news with Trevor Lawrence, is that Trevor Lawrence, even though he didn't practice today, but they are not going to put him in IR, nor they're going to end his season. It might be possible that this week he might not play, but I wouldn't be surprised in next week. So no name team dodge a bullet there. He just needs to survive this week with Browning, and if he can make the playoff with Trevor Lawrence
Mhm.
back, I mean, then it's a fair game. As we know with the no name team, he can basically end all the way to eliminated to all the way to third place. There's a couple scenarios that are out there that he can end up in third place, in which we'll dissect more as the week goes. But he can go all the way from 3 to 8, so he can land anywhere.
Yeah, I
So,
want to touch on the Trevor Lawrence injury real quick. From what I'm seeing, it says that it's a high ankle sprain.
yep,
Um, that's a 4 week injury for a running back. For a quarterback, maybe not so much. Maybe 2 weeks, 3 weeks. He's not necessarily a rushing quarterback, but he does run the ball. I see here that he has run the ball at least up to 8 times in a game per the attempts.
yeah,
So the evading the pocket, getting away from defenders, that's something that's in his game. But if he doesn't have it, how effective is he going to be?
exactly, exactly. No, no, hey, it will affect. Look, Mahomes had a high ankle sprain in the playoffs, and he made it through with it. Sometimes with these games on the line, and the adrenaline will these players will rush. So yeah, I mean it's tough. Let's see what happens. But at least it's not end of the year scenario for him. And when we first saw that injury, we thought it was going to be out for the year.
Mhm.
But no, and looks like that Trevor Lawrence will be back soon. Hopefully, the no name team will still be available.
Sounds good to me.
No, man. Well, these are the topics that we wanted to go over today. This, as we know, the playoffs are right around the corner. We will be dissecting a lot of the things that are happening in the league very soon. We're going to go with the matchups. We're going to give our predictions. Probably tomorrow, we'll be able to give our predictions for tomorrow's game. And let's see. I mean, this is the last week of the year. The big question that remains is that will Danny and Steven stay tied and bench the players? Stay tuned. Anything you need to add, Pedro?
Um, no, not really. Just wanted to say that when it comes to the collusion or not collusion or whatever it is that's going on in the league with these weird pickups and helping each other out, we're all competitors at the end of the day, and yes, we do have our clicks, but we need to remember that this is an individual sport. This is a competition. If we go out there and we say that we're gonna build a squad and we're gonna take our squad to the very end, it doesn't matter if I'm facing Alfredo or I'm facing Franklin. I'm going to take off their head. It doesn't matter.
Yep.
I'm taking them. I'm taking them all the way to where I need to take them so that I can win. But benching all your players, I understand that in the league, stuff like that happens because once you clinch a spot, you don't want players to get hurt. But this is not that situation. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, man. I mean, absolutely. I think that these guys, they're just liars. They're cheaters. All they say is no collusion. That all we're just doing for fairness. But it proves that they are scared and that they will do whatever it takes for it.
You're
So,
right. You're right.
all right, Pedro. Well, it was a pleasure having you again. Um, just again, people, subscribe to this league, to this YouTube channel that we have, the Fantasy Football Guru. Like the channel. Anything that will help this grow as we have continued growing from we started from the basement and now we're worldwide through YouTube. So subscribe to that channel, like this episode, and we'll be continually doing this. All right, Pedro, it was a pleasure, and thank you very much.
No problem, bro.